5, come on, keep it. Hey, 5, come on, James.
When did your body feel normal again?
It took about 3.5 weeks, almost a month, before I wasn't sore no more. Like my chest and my arms was sore literally 3.5 weeks.
But the guy who threw the cup of beer at me, John Green, who's a friend of mine now.
You're friends with the guy who hit you with the beer?
Absolutely. This is the reason why. This is the reason why I reached out to him, because I don't like to hold grudges.
Several NBA players have forged unexpected friendships with people outside of the league, showcasing how connections can form across seemingly diverse worlds.
It's an unlikely connection. How on earth have you become friends with the North Korean leader, and what sort of influence do you think you have over him?
He loves basketball.
Kim Jong-un. First of all, how are you friends? How did it happen?
He loves Chicago Bulls.
These unusual pairings can be particularly interesting when the individuals involved come from vastly different backgrounds and walks of life. In the early 90s, two seemingly unrelated worlds collided, basketball and grunge rock. Known for his defensive prowess and quick hands, Mookie Blaylock made a name for himself as a solid point guard in the NBA. Meanwhile, in Seattle, a group of musicians were coming together to form a new band. The members of Pearl Jam originally named their band Mookie Blaylock.
Well, that came from a basketball player from the New Jersey Nets named Mookie Blaylock, and it was just kind of an homage to him.
Apparently, they were about to go on tour but didn't have a name and needed to come up with one quickly. The band would always grab a pack of basketball cards with their lunch when recording their first record. When they turned in their tape, they threw a Mookie Blaylock card in the case and went with it.
A couple of us were kind of collecting basketball cards and stuff when we were actually making our first demo. We'd only been a band for probably about a week, I guess. And your card ended up in our demo, and some friends of ours were going on tour, and they wanted us to go on tour with them. They said, you need a name, and we hadn't even thought of a name at that point. And actually, Kelly, our manager, said, why don't you just call the band Mookie Blaylock?
As the band's popularity grew, concerns arose about using a real person's name. So to avoid legal issues, they adopted a new name, Pearl Jam. Nevertheless, they are now forever linked.
More than anything, I really wanted to meet them and just, say thanks for letting us use your name.
They actually ended up naming their debut album 10 as a tribute to Blaylock, whose jersey number was 10.
And then we were sitting around and we were trying to think of a title for the album, and somebody said, why don't we just call the album 10? Everybody everybody had a good feeling from it and said, yeah, it was the first time that everybody kind of completely agreed on something.
Pearl Jam's Jeff Ament went to a game of his when the Hawks were visiting Seattle. This story reminds us that inspiration can come from the most unexpected places. One is a four-time NBA champion, widely regarded as the greatest shooter in basketball history. The other is a Grammy-winning rock band that defined a generation. On the surface, Steph Curry and Paramore couldn't be more different. But what if I told you, or what if she told you, that they actually go way back, believe it or not? No, your ears aren't deceiving you. In a surprising development, the baby-faced assassin and the emo royalty are friends, with Curry admitting that he has been listening to them for a long time now.
I'm a big Paramore fan, have been since probably 2004.
In 2023, Curry joined them on stage and performed with them. And afterwards, his wife Aisha took to Instagram to say, "We listened to Paramore on one of our first dates." And many years later, they were kind enough to perform at Steph's 30th birthday. And this is the birthday party she was referring to, when he turned 30 back in 2018. Who would have thought a kid from Akron who changed basketball and a band from Tennessee that redefined a genre would resonate so much with each other?
Williams told the crowd that Curry and the band go back a few years.
Really?
This was their reunion. I didn't know he was a Paramore fan.
I was gonna say, this is so interesting to me that he's a fan of that band. How funny is that?
You wouldn't expect a battle-hardened UFC warrior and a silky smooth NBA guard to have much in common, but Alexander Volkanovski and Jamal Murray prove otherwise. They come from opposite ends of the sports world, but despite their differences in stature and sport, they share one thing: a hunger for greatness. Their story began in 2022 when Jamal visited Australia for promotional events. A chance meeting with UFC featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski sparked a rare connection between champions.
You were very busy. I see you there rubbing elbows with Jamal at the party.
Yeah, man, it's good. We've got a good relationship, man. He's a loyal dude as well as like myself. So since we connected, it's just I think he reminds me a lot of myself as well.
Wow.
Even the way he is, he's very disciplined and that's his work ethic, and he's all about that, right? So it's the same as me. And then he's a loyal dude, man. I feel like we're the same in many ways.
The two found common ground in their dedication to excellence. They often train together, each stepping into the other's world, giving each other a few tips about their respective sports. Their bond extends beyond training sessions. Murray showed up at UFC 290 to support Alex, even walking into the arena with him. So in return, Volkanovski became a huge fan of the Denver Nuggets.
Every time I have a bit of a connection, right? I don't have a basketball team, so now I'm a Denver guy. That's it, literally, because I've... you got to come to the game. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to. We'll tee it up. I'm locked in. I'm a loyal dude, so that's it. That's what I'm talking about, Jamal.
And celebrated when the Nuggets won the NBA championship.
Boys ready to turn it on, baby.
Jokic sets a hard screen. Vincent Harden, Murray. Two clutch free throws.
That's it, baby. That's it. The game up.
And it looks like all that MMA training is starting to pay off. Opposites in every way, Charles Barkley and Lin Wang shouldn't have had anything in common. Yet when they met, something unexpected happened.
An NBA legend and an accomplished scientist might seem like an odd pair. Two men from different walks of life who became fast friends.
He really was so proud of that friendship.
In 2014, Barkley was in Sacramento for a charity event. At the same hotel, Lin Wang, a cat litter scientist from Iowa, was on a business trip. Recognizing the NBA star, Lin approached him for a photo. But what started as a simple fan encounter blossomed into hours of conversation.
A few years ago, Lin met Charles Barkley at a hotel bar. Over drinks, then dinner, they formed a lasting bond.
People would react with so much surprise. They'd be like, oh my gosh, that's awesome.
After that night, Charles gave Lin his number, inviting him to reach out whenever he was in town. Lin took him up on that offer, even visiting the set of Inside the NBA. When Barkley's mother passed away in 2015, Lin traveled to Alabama to attend the funeral. His presence surprised many.
Everybody's like, who's the Asian dude over there? I just started laughing. That's my boy Lin. They're like, how do you know him? I said, it's a long story.
Then, not too long after, Lin was diagnosed with cancer and would pass away himself in 2018. Of course, Barkley attended his funeral, especially since Lin was kind enough to attend Barkley's mother's funeral, delivering a heartfelt eulogy.
The world is a little less happy because Lin's not here, but hey, we always gonna have great memories.
Charles lives in the spotlight, but in Lin Wang, he found something the spotlight never gave him: a true friend with no agenda.
You know, Greedy, when you're famous, man, there's so many people who want something from you. Everybody's grabbing at you all the time. And to meet a man who didn't want anything, did not want anything from me, just had a pure heart and was just a friend, man, it meant a lot to me.
One was a martial arts legend who changed the way the world saw fighting. The other, a basketball titan. Two men from two different realms, sports and cinema. Looking to train in martial arts, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then still Llewellyn Cinder, had a friend who knew Bruce Lee, so he went over to his house.
I'm fascinated by this relationship and the origin of it. So you tell me, how did this relationship with Bruce Lee begin?
It started while I was attending UCLA, right before my junior year started. So I go over to Bruce's house, and he told me to punch and kick this bag. And he stood behind the bag and had me punch and kick it. He said, that's interesting. And I wanted to train with him. And was able to train with him for the next 4 years.
Bruce saw something in Kareem, a student willing to learn, and so began a mentorship that would quickly evolve into a deep friendship. Fast forward to 1972, Bruce began working on the film Game of Death and invited Kareem to film a fight scene, a scene that would become iconic.
Tell me, what do you recall about this almost 40 years ago?
Oh, that's my first trip to Hong Kong with my good friend Bruce Lee. He said, come on, we're going to make a movie, you can be the villain. I said, sure, why not? I flew over to Hong Kong and I was the villain. That ended up being the last movie that he made.
Yeah.
Bruce would not live to finish the film. When he died in 1973, it shook the world, and it shattered those closest to him. For Kareem, it was like losing a brother. To this day, Kareem continues to honor Bruce Lee's legacy, speaking of him not just as a fighter, but as a friend.
On the outside, it seemed like an unlikely friendship between a 5'8" Chinese-American martial artist and a 7'2" African-American basketball player. But we were both more than that. I often am asked what the average person can do to make the world better. And I say, make a friend who doesn't look like you.